Now it's time for some more Ninth Doctor goodness with Doctor Who, The Ninth Doctor Adventures, Lost Warriors by Big Finish Productions. Here in this set we have 3 more stories starring Christopher Eccleston as the Ninth Doctor with an array of villains. Here we have the front cover for this set, and as you can see it is green, going in line with the colour scheme of the vanilla DVDs. Aside from that little observation, we have an interesting array of characters here. Of course we do have the Ninth Doctor in this array of characters, but unusually for these sets we don't have him up front and centre. Instead we have a Cyberman. So for the first time the Ninth Doctor is facing off against a Cyberman, and it's so exciting to finally see this. We have these other villains like this dude here, and we have this woman here, who are from the other stories. Once again, a bit like the second volume of Ninth Doctor Adventures, we have 3 different stories as opposed to the first volume, which was a trilogy but all sort of the same story. It was a 3-parter essentially. The common theme of the last set was that the Ninth Doctor was responding to different distress calls, hence the title of that set being Respond to All Calls, whereas the loose theme of this set is Lost Warriors. All of the villain characters are warriors in some way, and they've been lost in the mists of time. Interestingly enough as well, all 3 stories in this are set in different time periods in Earth's history. None of them are set in the present day, none of them are set in the future. Essentially all stories in this set are pseudo-historicals. So first positive comment I can say about this set is if you love your pseudo-historicals, then this is definitely a set worth picking up. And here's a spine. This really messes with my OCD for a number of reasons, because I really wanted a Ninth Doctor to be on this spine, but instead we do get the Cyberman on there. Overall, I have no problem with the design of the spine, because I really do love the Cyberman design, especially for this set. It is a completely brand new and unique take on the Cybermen for this set, because we've never seen this design before in any medium of Doctor Who. It is the Ninth Doctor's own Cybermen, you could say. However, and this is just me, it messes a little bit with my OCD. If I bring up the other 2 volumes and compare this alongside those other 2, then what messes this up a little bit for me, like I said, we don't have the Ninth Doctor here anymore, but also if you look at the first 2, all of the text is aligned, whereas with the third one the text isn't. The Doctor Who logo is now smaller and the name of the set is a little bit bigger. Messes a little bit with my OCD, but at the same time this happens a lot with other Doctor Who sets from Big Finish, namely the 8th Doctor sets, because they seem to do that a lot with those sets like Ravenous and Time War sets and things like that. So I can't complain too much. At the end of the day though, I'm just glad to have more Ninth Doctor stories from the worlds of Big Finish. So I'll just move these 2 out of the way for the time being, and we're going to take a look at the back of this set. So we have a synopsis for the set, and we have the names of the 3 stories here. We have The Hunting Season by James Kettle, The Curse of Lady Macbeth by Lizzie Hopley, and Monsters in Metropolis by John Dorney. All these were directed by Barnaby Edwards. At the top here you have the name of the set, and at the bottom you have all your legal stuff. Inside you have all of your individual CDs, starting off with The Hunting Season, which is a beautiful looking front cover, probably because it's red, and red is my favourite colour. Here you have the Ninth Doctor, and you have a horse with the alien villain, and I'll just move this a bit closer to the camera so you can see this guy. This is known as the Fleshkin. An interesting villain, but overall a good one for this story. If I give you a look at the back, you can have a look at the synopsis for this story. Inside you have your leaflet with your reversible cover, and then looking inside the leaflet you have details about the cast amongst other things around this story. And you have disc 1. If we pop a disc 1 out, you have an advertisement for Doctor Who The Ninth Doctor Adventures Volume 1 Ravagers, which you may have just seen before. The second CD in this is The Curse of Lady Macbeth by Lizzie Hopley. Here we have Nev McIntosh coming in as Lady Macbeth. For now, all I'll say is great casting here as Lady Macbeth. We also have this weird looking squid thing, which I feel like has been in Big Finish before, but hasn't at the same time. It looks very familiar. I love the medieval look of this story, and the Ninth Doctor is just there and he looks like he's loving it, and Eccleston looks like he's loving it as well. Having a look at the back, here you have your synopsis for this, so pause the video now. Inside you have your leaflet and your disc. Pop the disc out. You have the advertisement for The Ninth Doctor Adventures Volume 2 Responds to All Calls. And the last one in this Lost Warriors set, we have Monsters in Metropolis by John Dorney. Here we have a Cyberman with a film camera in front of it, with the Ninth Doctor looking rather concerned, and we have Fritz Lang just there in the background with his little monocle. This has amazing cover art. Turning this around, we have the synopsis for this, and I'll just give you a closer look. You can pause the video if you wish to do so now. So here's your leaflet. In this case you have 2 discs, so this disc has the story inside it, and then if I just pull this outwards you can see the bonus disc, which is the behind the scenes for Lost Warriors. And then the advertisement here is for all 3 Dalek Universe sets starring David Tennant as the 10th Doctor. So as I stated earlier, this set finally puts the Ninth Doctor up against the Cybermen, or at least a Cyberman in this context of things. But before we start talking about that story, I'm going to talk about the first 2 stories. Now, I do love all of these stories in all of the box sets that we've had so far with Christopher Eccleston as the Ninth Doctor, but I feel that this set might be my least favourite. But let me clarify, I still do enjoy this set for many reasons. I enjoy the fact that all stories are pseudo-historicals. The first story, you could say, is a bit of a romp. Setting the first story at Jubilee Hall is absolutely genius, because it puts the Ninth Doctor in a setting that you don't really see the Ninth Doctor being in, whether it is in the TV series or the audios that we've had so far. When I look at the Ninth Doctor and Christopher Eccleston, I think of a working class background, and Christopher Eccleston has stated many times in all the interviews that he's done across all the years that he is of working class. Having him come up against posh characters is something new, and that is one aspect that I quite enjoyed. The Fleshkin is a interesting creation for the story, if a little bit forgettable in the grand scheme of things. I like all the characters in this story. I like the twists in this story, although it's not the best twist that I've ever seen in anything. And overall, it is an enjoyable romp. Christopher Eccleston is on fine form in this story, as well as all of the other actors involved. As such, one character who stood out to me was Mrs. Goose, played by Annette Badland. Some eagle-eyed viewers will be more familiar with Annette as Margaret Slitheen from Series 1, which means that Christopher Eccleston has reunited with an actor from his very own TV series of Doctor Who. apart from Nicholas Briggs, who does voice the Cyberman in this, because as we all know, Nicholas Briggs is also the voice of the Daleks, and if you want to go a little bit further, he voiced the Nestine consciousness in Christopher Eccleston's very first TV episode, Rose. But enough of me geeking out. Yeah, I really love Annette Badland in this, her little narration scenes. But apart from that, yeah, everyone else is great. The story does work, but if I have to compare this story to other stories from volumes 1 and 2 of this range, then I'd say it's not as groundbreaking. But still, it does something new with the Ninth Doctor by putting him in an unfamiliar setting. The Curse of Lady Macbeth was one which interested me when this set got first announced, because I know for a fact that Christopher Eccleston really loves his Shakespeare, because he's acted in the Royal Shakespeare Company, and one of the many plays that he is being a part of was Macbeth, and he actually played the title character of Macbeth. So seeing this get announced really did put a smile on my face, because I knew straight away that this would be a script that Christopher Eccleston would love, and as it turned out, you can really hear this in the performance of Eccleston. I mean, I say this as if this is the one that he enjoyed the most. I think that in all the performances that I've heard on audio, Christopher Eccleston just gives his all, and he proves that after all this time, once again, he is a phenomenal actor. He is one of the best actors to ever play the role of the Doctor, and these sets still prove to me after all this time that actually the Ninth Doctor is one of the best incarnations of the Doctor that there's ever been. I love his sass, I love his wit, I love how he just likes being present amongst these historical figures. One thing that you shouldn't forget is the fact that some of the characters from the Shakespearean play of the same name actually did exist in some form. Yes, a few things may have been exaggerated, like the witchcraft and all of that, but here you have the characters of Macbeth, you have Lady Macbeth, and you have an alien threat, and it's just perfect. I think this is a real love letter to the history of Scotland, because this is a part of Scottish history, so you have a strong Scottish cast, which is very similar to the first story of Volume 2, Girl Deconstructed, because that also had a very strong cast from Scotland. The standout guest performer in this is Nev McIntosh. She just plays brilliantly off Christopher Eccleston, and I really do feel like they're a great duo in this story. You get a little bit of Macbeth in this, but not all that much. Lady Macbeth is certainly the main guest star in this, which makes sense because Lady Macbeth is in the title of this story. I'm really happy to see Nev McIntosh play a really good role that is far from her familiar role as a Silurian. Lizzie Hopley has created such a wonderful piece of media here, because I feel that the dialogue is so cleverly written. So if you really love your Shakespeare and you really love your Scottish history, then this might end up being your favourite story of the set. For me though, it's not my favourite. I still do like the story, but like the hunting season, I feel that this is more of a enjoyable romp. I enjoy it, but I don't feel that it is the best thing that I've ever listened to, at least in the Ninth Doctor adventures anyway. And that is mainly due to the fact that the plot may be a little bit forgettable. And yeah, I feel that the first two stories are good in this set, but there's some aspects of it which are quite forgettable. The best thing about this story is the dialogue and the way that the characters are written. It is a great character piece for Lady Macbeth amongst all of the other historical figures which feature in this. The sci-fi element of this is rather forgettable, and it's sort of like been there, done that. It's far from terrible by any means, because it still works in the grand scheme of things. But in terms of what we've heard before from the Ninth Doctor Adventures range, this isn't the greatest that we've ever had. But that might be down to taste. Some people will listen to this and enjoy this even more than all the others. So I still say that this and the hunting season is definitely worth a listen. Now for the final story in the set, which, by no surprise, is my favourite story of the set. It is Monsters in Metropolis, where we have the Ninth Doctor come up against a Cyberman. The stuff that is done with this Cyberman is quite clever. Whether you say it is the most original thing done with the Cyberman is questionable, because we've had quite a lot of audio stories with the Cybermen. I'll let you judge for yourself. If you listen to this story, you can make your mind up. But for what it's worth, I think this is a very strong story to close out this box set. We have an amazing guest cast, and this story, honestly, it reminds me a lot of Christopher Eccleston's first Dalek story from Series 1, because we have one Cyberman. Like with that story, we have one Dalek, and the interplay between Eccleston and the Cyberman is some of the best things that you will ever hear from this range. I'd like to think that going forward, this is a story which many people will go back to for many years to come. But then again, you could argue that for the other two stories in this set, depending on what your preferred taste is. With this being set in the 1920s era, this is something that has always interested me, because that is a part of history which I've always enjoyed studying. I just love that whole aspect of economic boom. You have your Wall Street crash in 1929, and in terms of films, you have your talkies, where silent films are slowly coming to an end. We're starting to get pictures where you can hear sound and things like that, which is really good. Metropolis is one of the most famous films ever made, and this story is certainly a love letter to that era, much like how The Curse of Lady Macbeth is a love letter to Scottish history and Shakespearean plays. Fritz Lang is an amazing guest character, and just having the Ninth Doctor interact with this guy is really good to listen to. Fritz Lang, he came across as a little bit of an eccentric figure, but he's someone who just fits perfectly into the Doctor Who universe. One aspect of this which I really like is the sound design, because there's parts of this where you see and feel the action in the eyes of a Cyberman, and I can just visualise this, and it's just the way that the sound design has been done. The way you hear it, you can just see it, and it's just incredible. I love how there's little subtle hints that the Ninth Doctor himself is a lost warrior, because don't forget, this is the Doctor who has come straight out of a time war which has just changed his world forever. At this point in his life, he is the last Time Lord. This Doctor is someone who has a lot of layers, and Eccleston just nails it in this one. I like the little references here and there to the classic series, like you have the gold, and you even have some sewers in this as well. And for some reason, Cybermen really do like hanging out in the sewers. The best part of this for me is the final 5-10 minutes of this. For me at least, John Dorney has written a beautiful piece of audio drama. Monsters in Metropolis is without doubt my highlight of this Ninth Doctor Adventures box set. So that concludes Lost Warriors. I hope you enjoyed my review of this volume of Ninth Doctor Adventures as much as I've enjoyed reviewing it for you. If you're new to the channel, then be sure to like this video and subscribe for even more Doctor Who Big Finish reviews. Take care, and I shall see you next time.